Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is Cassandra Terry, your manifesting miracle maker, and it's Friday, y'all. It's Friday. I don't know about y'all, but it's been a long week. I'm happy to get to Friday. And today is Focus Friday. And hopefully I don't have too much background noise. I hear a beeping from my phone, but as you guys come on, you can let me know if that becomes an issue. Good morning, Kaylin. I'm glad to see you here. So we're going to give it a couple of minutes to let people join. Kaylin, how's the sound? Is the music okay in the background or is it distracting? Good morning, Alicia. Thanks for joining. We're going to get started in just a moment. As you guys come in, drop me a note, a comment, so that I know that you're here. I'm actually live in multiple places, so unless you say something or leave a emoji or something, then I don't know you're here. The music's a little loud. Let me drop it. Good morning, Mother. I see that you are here. Hopefully that's better, Kaylin. Hey, Kim. Good morning. Look who's here. Bridget. Hey, Nisi Poo, I love you. I'm glad to see you here. Good morning, everybody. Just trying to give it a few seconds. I see people are still coming in, and we'll get going in just a moment. This week's Focus Friday ties to last week's. Um, you love me most? We'll see. We competitive, girl. If you love me most, I love you mostest. It's good to see you, Bridget. I saw your request come in the other day, so I am so glad that we are virtually connected, girl. I'm so glad. All right, so I've got folks on from Facebook. I've got folks on from, I see YouTube. The other place that I'm live is LinkedIn. So we may have some folks join in from LinkedIn as well. So wherever you're joining me from, please leave drop a comment so that I know that you're here, so that I can recognize you. Thank you for joining in. And it is a couple minutes after the hour, actually 4 minutes after the hour. So let's go ahead and get started. And today is Focus Friday. I had a question after last week's focus. We were talking about where the energy goes. Your energy kind of follows your focus, and what you put your thoughts and your energy into, you create more of that for yourself. And on YouTube, after the broadcast, I had someone ask me, what do you do when you're focused, but somebody else comes along and either they're not operating as their best self, not in a good headspace, whatever the case may be, but their energy or something that they say or something that they do knocks you off your game. It takes your focus away. So the question that she asked me is, what do you do when you lose your focus because of someone else? Good morning, Sierra. And so I thought that was a great question. And so I had promised that I would come back to her and respond to that question. I was going to leave a comment on YouTube, but I thought we would make today's segment about that question and responding to it. And just so you guys know, I don't just say whatever. I really believe that these messages they're timely and they're designed for somebody. And 99.99% of the time, they're designed for me. And I'm just sharing what I'm overcoming or how I've overcome something or some life experience. And my hope is always that something that I share will shorten the time for somebody else in a difficult situation, or give you some tools, techniques, ideas on how you might overcome something similar to what I may be talking about. And I laughed this morning because as I was waking up, it was about 5:30 this morning. All these R words, words that started with the letter R, started coming to me, and they were relating back to that question. So I had written, "What do you do when you're triggered?" Because that's really what you're saying. If you're saying you're fine, you're going about your day, life is good, you're focused, and all of a sudden someone does something, says something, and they throw you off your game, what has happened is you have become triggered. And so when you're triggered, what do you do? Because what that means is you've moved out of your conscious thinking state and you've moved into an emotional reactive state. And our emotions are valid. They happen for a reason. They're designed to teach us something, typically something about ourselves. And then we should get right back into that rational brain, use those two together, and then we're operating at our best self. We don't ever want to deny our emotions. We don't want to try to suppress them, push them down. We want to really acknowledge them and take a look at them and see what they're trying to tell us about ourselves. So you guys bear with me, and you are going to hear a bunch of words that begin with the letter R today because that's just how they came to me. So the first R, when we're answering the question, what do you do when you're triggered, or what do you do when someone else is taking you off your game? The first thing you do is recognize. You have to recognize and tap into yourself so that you realize that you have been triggered, that you're no longer in control of your emotions, but now your emotions are in the driver's seat, and you are just reacting and going along and doing whatever it is your emotions tell you to do in hopes of making you feel better or the person on the other end feel worse. So at that point, you've got to recognize that this is going on, because once we're aware, just the awareness itself puts us in a position to regain control. The next R. You want to recognize what's happening, that you're no longer in control, that you're in a reactionary mode, and then you want to start to do some things to regain control. And that's where, and the more you know about yourself and how you operate, the faster you can regain control. You've got to spend some time with yourself and think about what is it that helps calm you down, what soothes you, what gets you back into a state to where your emotions are not driving, but you're back into a rational state. You've got control, and you and your emotions are working together to keep things even keeled and have you operating at your best self. Some of the things that you can do to take your control back is take a pause. I've talked about pausing before. Take a pause, breathe, allow yourself to kind of calm down and get recentered again, and feel what you're feeling, but don't act on what you're feeling yet. You're not in a position to act. You're really not even in a position to speak at this point, because your emotions are all over the place, and you want to regain that composure so that when you do act, when you do speak, it's something that you can stand behind, something that you truly believe, not just acting out of emotions, and something that you're not going to have to apologize for later. So you want to try and regain control. Do you pause and stop and think? Do you take some deep breaths? Do you actually go outside? I got really triggered at work. I think it was Thursday. I was so frustrated with one of my colleagues. He's not even in the same country, but he made me just want to scream. And I told my manager, I need to take a break. I'll be back. And I just went outside and I walked around for a few minutes just to allow myself to feel the sunshine, to change the environment that I was in. The wind felt good against my skin. I was walking, so my feet are hitting the pavement. So now I've got all these other sensations going on, and not just what's playing in my head that has me so frustrated. Because I was replaying that conversation over and over again. And the longer I let it play, the madder I got. So I had to break that cycle. I had to be aware that that's what was going on. And then I had to take some action to regain control. So I stepped outside, I walked around, I got some fresh air, I allowed myself to breathe. I removed myself from the individual, because that's somebody that I've worked with for years, somebody that I will probably continue to work with for years. So one reactionary statement could really have tarnished that relationship and made it uncomfortable for us to continue to work together. So it made the most sense for me to step back, gather myself, and then come back in when I was in a better position to move forward. So breathing, removing yourself, getting some fresh air, do whatever you need to do to regain control. And I really want to encourage you to know what those things are. Spend some time with yourself, really tapping in and thinking about times when you were most upset and times when you overcame that. What did you do? What was it that moved you from that state of frustration into a place to where you were back in control again? Take note of things like that because you want to be able to pull it out when you need it. And sometimes when you're really, really worked up, you can't think at that level. It's hard to think about what do I need to do to calm myself down. So you want to have those things in your arsenal already, in your bag of tricks that you can grab and use to just take a breath, recenter, regain control. And now that you've regained control, the next thing that you want to do, we're back to these R's, is you want to resist. You want to resist the normal behavior of beating yourself up. You also want to resist focusing on the other person. Because in that situation, regardless of what the situation is, there was at least two people, you and somebody else. You have absolutely no control over that other person. You can't control what they say. You can't control what they do. And a lot of times when we're in that situation and we're triggered, we get bigger and bigger and louder and louder. And we're just doing whatever we can do to gain what we call control. That's actually a lack of control. Your emotions are running the show. You're completely out of control. The situation is out of control. And so you want to resist. Don't focus on that person. What I was doing on Thursday was replaying what he said and how he said it over and over again. So I was focused on him. But the magic is in focusing on you. When you focus on yourself, you're in a position to do something differently. You're in a position, one, to learn, and then you can change the whole narrative. You can get back control of that situation, and regardless of how that other person is acting, you regain control, and you control the narrative and how things are going to go. If that person continues to behave badly, at a minimum, you can just shut it down. I'm not responding to this anymore. This is toxic. This isn't healthy. You can fight by yourself, whatever the case may be. Shut it down. If they see you, though, often if you change your energy and how you respond, you just might change the energy and the response that's going on in the whole situation. The interaction between the two of you may change. We have a decision that we get to make every time we're in a difficult situation. Am I going to try and soothe the conversation and make it better, or am I going to pour gas on am I going to escalate? And a lot of times our default is to escalate because you've triggered me. Now my feelings are hurt, or I'm angry, or I feel embarrassed, or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to lash out. And in that lashing out, we're pouring gas on the fire. We are making the fire hotter, hotter, bigger, bigger. And before you know it, things are out of control. We don't even remember what we were originally fighting about. Because it's no longer about that. It's tit for tat. You did me, I did you, so we're just going to go back and forth and see who wins. Nobody wins in those situations. Everybody loses. And sometimes people who weren't even a part of it lose because they have to now live in the new environment that's been created. The discomfort, the awkwardness, the anger, people want to choose sides. It just gets bigger and bigger and out of control. So be a de-escalator. Try and keep things from getting bigger and bigger. Control the narrative, and you do that by controlling yourself. Good morning, Joy. So glad to see you. So we'll recap where we've been so far. What do you do when you're triggered? First, you have to recognize that your trigger has been hit, that something's going on and you're losing it. Second, you want to regain control. You want to step away from the situation or take a few quick breaths or something. If you can't step away, you want to do whatever it is that you do to calm yourself down and get your emotions back in control. And then third, you want to resist. You want to resist focusing on the other person or the situation that just happened, because if you keep focusing on that, you're just going to keep going down this emotional spiral that's going to make things more and more difficult. You are responsible for you. You are responsible for your actions. So that's an internal piece of work that needs to happen. And you want to be intentional about that. So resist beating yourself up in that moment, and resist focusing on the other person so that you can see yourself in that situation, because that's the only thing that you can completely control. After you've done those three things, now you want to reflect. You stepped back from the situation. It may have even been over, or maybe you're not in that same place anymore. I was home from work, and if I'm still churning over my conversation with my coworker, then I have not resisted, and I'm not focusing on myself. So I'm not learning from that situation. So the reflection piece is really, really important, because what happens when we're in a difficult conversation or situation with somebody is we're externally focused. Typically, we're focused on them, what they said, what they did. But what we really want to do is ask ourselves, why did that bother me so much? At the end of the day, this person is not my whatever. They're not paying my bills. They're not they don't determine whether or not I have oxygen. So why am I so upset about what this person said or did? Good morning, Sonia. That is an important piece, and that is where you really get a chance to learn something about yourself. Did that situation remind you of something that you've had to deal with in the past? Did you have somebody that was, had a sharp tongue and shut you down all the time when you were younger and didn't have the power to stand up for yourself? You've got to peel that back a little bit and go, why did this situation take me to 10 so quickly? It's not the other person. It's not even what they said. It may not even be how they said it. It's typically bigger than that. Yes, people can be disrespectful, but what somebody says is only as important as you allow it to be. Good morning, beautiful Franny. Thank you for joining. It's only as important as you allow it to be. What someone else says, their words, positive or negative, have absolutely no effect on you until you apply value to those words. If you believe what they said, I wrote an article quite a few months back. It's probably been close to a year, and it's talking about you must embody it. If you don't embody what that person said, if you don't take it into yourself and give it some level of truth, it doesn't matter. So reflect on it. Why did it affect you as deeply as it did? Why did it make you as upset as it did? Do you believe some of what they said? And if you do, again, there's the internal work. You've got to look at, where did you get that message? Why do you believe that? And replace that message with something that serves you, because right now it's in your way. You are totally able to be controlled by the next person who comes along and says something or does something similar. You are not in control of your own emotions and your own responses. So we've got to fix that. And the only way to fix it is to understand it. You must embody it, or it has absolutely no value. So that's the next thing. So we've recognized the fact that we're triggered. We've done the work to regain control. We've resisted focusing on the other person, and we've turned our focus inward. And now we've reflected on why this situation hit us the way that it did in the first place. And then the next thing you want to do is release. Release all of those negative emotions. Do not go into beating up yourself. Realize that we're all human, and at most of the time, we're all doing the best we can with what we know and what we have in that moment. And give yourself some grace, and give the other person some grace. Go, I don't know what was going on in his head. I don't know why he was being so jerky to me on Thursday, because we typically get along very well. So it was out of character. So I'm going to give him some grace, and I'm going to assume that something was going on with him that made him behave badly. It triggered me, and I got right into the behave badly game with him until I recognized what was going on and stepped back. And I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I'm going to release. I'm going to release the negative emotions, because only then can I actually really learn from that situation. I can really take in everything that I've experienced and figure out what in that situation is going to serve me better the next time. How will I behave the next time I'm triggered like this? How can I make sure that I don't give my power over to someone so quickly? I have to have some conversations with myself. I tell y'all all the time, get comfortable talking to yourself. Have some good, heartfelt conversations, real, raw conversations with yourself. You can't lie to yourself. You can try it. But some of the frustration comes because when you do lie to yourself, you know better. Deep down, you know better. You know what you know. And so it doesn't work. And so you end up frustrated, and that makes it easier to focus outward, focus on the other person. It's a waste of energy. You can't control what that person does. If they're not doing their own inner work, they will continue to stumble and fumble through life until they finally figure it out. But you get to decide that you're not going to let the stumblers and the fumblers of life control you and your energy and the type of day that you're having. You don't get to control my day. So sometimes it just means me, myself, and I have to huddle and regroup and get it together and determine. You make a decision, you decide. Don't go through life just wandering along. Make decisions and stick by those decisions. I've decided that I'm going to behave better. And when I move into a situation where I'm not behaving according to that decision, now it's time for me to stop and reflect and figure out what's going on. And then once you've released and you're not beating yourself up, you're not on that cycle of I shoulda, woulda, coulda, it's okay. You can the next time because you've learned something from that situation. Then you want to resume. You want to get back to your regularly scheduled programming. That situation is over. It's dead. It's done. Let it go. Don't carry the weight of that situation into the rest of your day because it serves you. It doesn't serve you at all. It doesn't serve you. So resume your day. Take from it just the lesson. Take from it what you've learned about yourself. Take from it how you know you can behave differently going forward, and let the rest of that stuff go. So we're gonna recap. What do you do when you're triggered? And I hope the lady who asked me the question on YouTube sees this broadcast. And what she said to me last Focus Friday is, okay, well, what happens when I'm focused and I've got it together and somebody else comes along and throws me off my game? What if they make me lose my focus? And so I turned her question into, what do you do when you're triggered? First, you've got to recognize that you're triggered. Then you've got to regain control. And we talked about some different ways to do that. And then you want to resist focusing on the other person. You want to reflect on why you were triggered the way that you were. Why did it hit you so hard? You want to release any negative emotions and beating up of yourself, because we are all learning and doing the best we can all the time. And then you want to resume. You want to get back to your day. Let that thing go. Don't allow it to haunt you all day long. You're done with it. You have your lesson. It is a wrap. So that's what I have for you guys this morning on our Focus Friday. I appreciate all the comments. Joyce said deep and meaningful conversations are so essential to have with yourself so change can be made for self. Absolutely. I see release in all caps. I see yes to all from Franny. Kim saying right on. Siobhan, Bridget has her hands up. So I think we hit on some things that have really resonated with you guys. I so appreciate the feedback and you being here bright and early on a Friday morning. I will be back on Monday for Mindset Monday. If you catch this later on the replay, please hashtag replay. Still leave your comments. I'll get back to them. You see my website is scrolling at the bottom. So that's where my blog is. I'm actually going to write this up and post it today on my blog site, manifestingmiraclemakers.com. So you guys, please subscribe to that. And that way, whenever I do post something, you'll get notified and see it right away in case I forget to text you. And so that's it. Focus Friday is underway. We've got the full day ahead of us. Make it the best day that you can have. Ease into a wonderful weekend, and we will resume on Mindset Monday. Thank you guys for joining in. Everybody have a great weekend.